Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight we are live. And tonight's topic, When the Cracks Develop, Part 3. The panel's here. We're ready to go. We want to hear from you in the chat. Let's get started.
Grant is changing the world one track at a time on Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Hey, welcome everybody. We are live. This is episode 3 of When the Cracks Develop. The panel is back. I want to welcome BM Bolt, Johnny Metal, John the Music Nut, and of course, DC Toon Time. But first of all, before we get started, we were just talking about this before we started to stream this. Pete Rose passed away.
Very dark day for this cat. I'm a big-time Cincinnati Reds fan, and look at old DC.
Oh,
can you believe that?
Look at that. But man, I used to have like a Pete Rose shirt. When we were kids, we all pretended we were Pete Rose or Johnny Bench or Joe Morgan, any of the Big Red Machine. We all pretended that.
Baseball cards I used to do those Reds fantasy camps, and the former players used to say that was Sparky Anderson. There was Rose, Bench, Morgan, and Tony Perez, and the rest of the players, he called them turds. So those 4 guys got a lot more privileges on the team than the rest of the guys did. They would just call them turds. But anyway, Pete is one of those guys that when you took the field with Pete, you were strutting like a cock, and he was one of those guys that you could rally around. If he was on your team, you loved that guy to death. If you played against him, you hated his guts.
Yep.
And as Johnny Metal was saying, he loved when they got Rose from the Phillies. Yeah. Because boy, that guy could just light a fire underneath a team.
And he was a big part of that 1980s World Series win for the Phillies too. So that was a special time for us Philly fans. So
there were the couple Reds there, weren't there?
Joe Morgan got there eventually, and I think Perez was there for a little while. That was.
Well, yeah, Pete Rose is involved in the betting scandal, but whatever. Jeez,
I think
he never got in the Hall of Fame.
On his baseball merits, there's no way he should be not in the Hall of Fame. Pete was such a competitive guy that I think when he was done playing ball, he didn't know where to put all that competitive fire, and coaching wasn't enough for him. He never bet against the Reds, but I think he just liked that extra edge that having something right on a game would give him, because he was missing that once he no longer played. But that's neither here nor there, and hopefully in the afterlife he'll have a different perspective of everything that transpired. But nonetheless, he should have been in the Hall of Fame. Whether you want him there at Cooperstown or not, that's immaterial. The guy's statistics, he's one of the all-time greatest ball players ever.
Fun to watch.
And I agree with what Metal Roger said. There's players who've done worse things and they still wound up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think for baseball, just the betting thing, they just don't want to bring that upon the game and its integrity. So that's why you could be like Doc Ellis and be on LSD and pitch a no-hitter, and it's like, well, yeah, he has his foibles, but then, betting on the game, they got to keep that pure.
You know, and then if you make the case for Pete Rose, well, then you got to go back to the Black Sox era, you know, and revisit that again.
Joe,
but
welcome to Sports Talk, folks.
Well, when you're at my age, and you know, Pete Rose was a big deal.
My God, yeah.
When I'm like 10 years old, he was like an idol.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It just makes me think, well, Grant, you're getting old too.
Oh, yeah, Rick.
Right.
Because here's a little fun fact about D.C. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, and I was an Indians fan as a little kid. When I moved to Cincinnati, I became a tremendous Reds fan. But I remember that All-Star game where he plowed over Fosse. And believe me, Indians fans had nothing to cheer about my whole childhood. They sucked every year. But Ray Fosse, he was going to lead us out of the doldrums. And when Pete obliterated him, that poor guy never came back to the player he was before. Not even close.
And
He
that,
destroyed him.
and the fact that was even during an all-star game, and that's how competitive Pete was.
That just shows you what Pete was all about.
And it wasn't even at the beginning of the game. This is like toward the end of the game or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
company picnic or family outing. If that was Nana catching, he'd have run her over too. Her dentures would have been flying over to second base.
Well, for Byron, it's like, sorry about your 1980 Royals.
He seems like he's okay.
All right.
He's gotten
They've
over
got a
it.
couple World Series under their belts. So.
Yeah, he's gotten over it. They got a good ball club this year, Royals.
Yeah. Good luck to him.
Yeah. And then who was it again from the band? Yeah, Matumbo.
Well, Matumbo passed away, and then I get a guy who played guitar with Anvil, not Lips, but one of the other guitar players on some of the earlier albums. He passed away. So yeah, there's been a lot of different folks that's passed away the last few days.
Wow. Well, kind of put a bummer on our show, but all right, we can carry on as a tribute.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah, we can talk music now, but we had to talk about it for a brief moment.
We could not ignore Pete. Being Ohio people, and for myself, big baseball fan, that was like very sad for me.
Look at that. When the cracks started to develop in Grant's Rock Warehouse.
When they turned it into sports talk.
It's the Warehouse Sports Talk. Hey, welcome back, everybody.
Hey, how about those Browns? What do you think about the Bengals, folks?
All right. Well, anyway, welcome, everybody. We had to say something about it. Appreciate everybody coming in tonight. The chat room's open. We want to keep you involved. This is how this show goes. We want to hear from you as well. So this is episode 3, and when the cracks develop, and you know how this show works, we just go around, and it's pretty much basically just a discussion on these records. But the whole idea is look at these records where we think that these records still can be good records. But this is where we start to see some slippage. Things are starting to break down. So anyway, here we go, Logan. We want to hear your crack issues. 1-800-Warehouse. Exactly. Roger, come on. There's no.
I'm not talking about Wasp tonight, Roger. Don't worry.
We already talked about Wasp.
I was on the second or first, one of the 3.
We can only have one crack per record. Victoria Principal is alive and well. Anyway, let's get started. I'm going to throw it over to Mr. B.M. Bolt, and we're going to go Johnny Metal, John the Music Nut, and then me. DC may have something for us, but he's here just to
bullshit.
Hold up the damn possum tonight.
Just the bullshit. And
all right, so let's get
Sardini.
There you go. All right, Byron, you are up.
All right, I want to talk about that first Wasp album. No, I don't.
Yes.
I don't know anything about Wasp. I want to talk about one of the great classic rock bands. And this might be a little long at times, but this is basically a CD of their first 2 albums. It's the first Allman Brothers albums.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've got the second one on vinyl. But great albums. They didn't sell a ton on these, but they did fairly well. They really got popular though when the live album from the Fillmore came out. This got them a lot of notoriety, and they started making some good money. They started doing a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, and all the excesses that come with that. But after they finished touring for that, they started recording their next album, Eat a Peach. And Dwayne died in a motorcycle crash during the recording of that. So you could kind of say maybe there should be some cracks forming at this point, but you don't really get to see them because, to be honest, most of this album was recorded at the Fillmore anyway, or was already recorded prior to Dwayne dying. I think just the first side is stuff after he had died. And Dwayne really wasn't much of a writer either. Correct. So you don't really notice much of a drop off on this album. But then about a year later, they go out on tour and whatnot. I guess Barry's not handling the death of Dwayne worth a damn. He's drinking more and doing more drugs than anybody, it sounds like. And so they're recording this album. I think it was in the recording of this that Barry dies of a motorcycle crash.
Yeah.
A couple blocks away from where Dwayne had died. And like I said, the whole band was doing a ton of drugs and just living beyond, what they should have been doing. But Dickie really steps up on this album for them. And they bring in Chuck Leavell and Lamar Williams, and somehow they're still holding it together, despite the 2 deaths and all the drugs, because this is probably their best-selling album of all time, I would think.
Easy.
It had a big hit, but they're still holding it together. Well, so they go out on the road on that, and it's not going well. And then Greg decides he's going to start dating Cher.
Oh, God.
Okay. So they release. They start going into the studio to record this album, Win, Lose, or Draw. Okay, this is where the cracks, in my opinion, really started to show. So like I said, Greg living with Cher in L.A., he's recording his vocals out there because he didn't want to fly back and do it. He and Dickie are both working on solo albums. Nobody can agree on anything. People aren't showing up for the sessions. Apparently their manager got busted for trafficking coke, but his name was Scooter Herring.
Yep.
And Greg testified against him. Greg says that Scooter told him that he would take the rap for it so that Greg wouldn't take the rap. And he told him to do it, but the band thought Greg was a snitch. And anyway, they actually got the album done and released. And the tour didn't go well, like I said, the whole Scooter thing. And they broke up about a year later. But they just couldn't hold it together any longer. But, a few years later, they did the Enlightened Rogues album, which I thought was a pretty decent comeback. I was going to pull that out. I didn't pull it. They brought in a couple different guys from, I think, Dickie's band. Yeah, Dan Toller and
David Goldflies.
It was a pretty decent album. I really didn't think, though, that Reach for the Sky and Brothers of the Road was as good. And then they called it quits again. But they got back together in like 89, and it was great. The last 20-some years, they did great, I thought. The 4, I think they did 4 studio albums and a few live albums in that time. So they were a band that, the cracks showed and then they collapsed, but, they tried to get back together in 78, 79, and they did okay, but it just couldn't last. And then they needed another 7-8 years to get it back together, and they did it. They held it pretty well together after that. So then everybody's died basically since then, except for Game.
Yeah. Well, Brian thinks that Win, Lose, and Draw is a terrific album. Byron.
It's not as good as the prior albums. It's got some moments like was it High
Falls is fantastic. The rest of the album, not so much.
And you know what? It doesn't have to be a bad, like I said, it doesn't have to be a bad album, but the cracks were showing.
Big time.
I mean, the fact that he's dating Cher, that is the biggest crack right there.
Right.
That's all you didn't know.
If Greg was still alive, I'm sure he wished he could have turned back time.
Yeah, no shit.
Like I said, they couldn't get along anymore. They weren't even recording it. They used to record all their stuff simultaneously, and this album they were recording everything separately, and they just weren't getting along, and it's just the cracks are showing. And it's not a bad album. It's definitely better than Reach for the Sky and Brothers of the Road. I don't know if it's better. It's probably on par with Enlightened Rogues. Maybe Enlightened Rogues is a little worse than this, but not by much. Those are mine.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Other than that's good. I do have to mention this before I take Sydney's wrench. For Rush, cracks form for me after hemispheres, maybe even on hemispheres. Sydney, are you on crack?
Speaking of crack.
Or meth or something? Or are you feeling okay? This might go back to the way we've talked about this before. Sydney was born in the 80s. And it probably has a lot to do with when you come in on Rush.
It all
and
has
I don't
when
know
these
what
things
his
hit ya.
I don't know when he got involved in Rush, but I can guarantee you
he's Canadian.
He is totally wrong on that statement. So I'm taking his wrench.
Everybody has an opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Not when you're on my show. It's got to line up with my opinion.
Remove the wrench and give him a screwdriver.
All right, Sydney, it was nice knowing you. We'll see you.
Oh, man.
Jason just said it took Warren Haynes to get the Allmans back on track. I totally agree with that.
Logan wants me to ban him. I won't ban him.
No,
Kyle,
Sydney's a good guy. You like
he's
him.
a good
This is
guy.
turning into an old Frankenstein movie.
Sydney needs a stern talking to, or maybe a timeout in the corner, but I won't ban him.
Don't ban him, no.
I don't ban I haven't banned anybody. Anyway, wait a minute. All right. It took Warren Haynes to get it did, didn't it?
Absolutely.
It did.
That's a good comment right there.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm 100% right. Kyle, Hemispheres is it's one of my favorites. That's probably my favorite Rush album. First Rush song I heard was Working Man.
Me too. From WMMS
Well, then,
out of Cleveland.
if that's what you like, you shouldn't like any of it then.
Yeah, because that was one album and then it completely changed after that debut.
Ken White, Sydney, I love you, man, but the Rush Hemispheres, it's awesome. Look at that. Put the hammer down.
Tough love. Tough
Great
love.
album can still have cracks.
That's what we have here in the warehouse. Tough love.
Elder, I'm not stressed about being booted last night. And that's what happens when you play music for over an hour. It's Russian roulette. It's happened to me before. Hadn't happened for a while, but we were pushing a lot of those shows for like an hour and a half. So I'm surprised it kicked in at like 8 minutes after, but you never know. Oh, Paul, Sydney does need, you should educate young Sydney. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Home of the Buzzard. All right. Well, anyway, I appreciate everybody here. What a train wreck. Anyway, Johnny Metal.
All right, John. All right, let's see if I can get myself out of my little Pete Rose doldrum here. So,
I hear you.
So let's go to the land of Los Angeles for my first pick.
Okay.
I feel like this is a hotbed for a lot of these bands who would develop a lot of cracks, and so this one, this is well documented. I probably don't need to talk a whole lot about this, but it just seemed like a good band to talk about. And so Quiet Riot is who I'm going to first talk about. And let's go a little condition critical first, I guess. So of course they have the first two albums that come out on CBS Sony in Japan with Randy Rhoads. Albums are
Not good.
Not very good. They're pretty much forgotten. Randy doesn't even want nobody to get a hold of them. So it's probably a blessing that they got such limited distribution. So, but after Randy dies in the plane crash, and he regroups, Dubrow regroups, puts Metal Health out. Goes to the top of the charts, and they hit it big. MTV picks up on them picks up on them quick with "Come On, Feel the Noise" and the Metal Health videos, and all of a sudden they start skyrocketing. And when they're skyrocketing, well, there's ego, and Kevin Dubrow had a lot of that, and boy, it got him in a lot of trouble. By the time this thing comes out, Condition Critical, the songs are nowhere near as strong. The songs are nowhere near as strong. They're trying to be almost a Metal Health Part 2, and it fails miserably. There's probably the title track is actually probably the best, strongest song on it, Condition Critical. And let's just face it, they went with the Slade cover. Hey, let's do another Slade song. That seemed to work good the first time. So, well, didn't do it again. So that didn't work. After this, Rudy Sarzo leaves the band. They get Chuck Wright back, and then they get rid of Dubrow because his mouth just keeps going like the alligator that it is. And Quiet Riot would just become just a revolving door of people. And they just never recovered. That basically the name of the album is correct. Condition critical, because that's where they were in. It was a critical condition, and it just got wider and wider and wider. And pretty much now, if you watch them in concert, I mean, it's basically, well, yeah, okay, Rudy's back in the band, but I mean, what are they going to do? Metal Health in its entirety? Maybe a couple tracks from Condition Critical or one of the other two albums after that. They're not going to do much of anything else from their catalog. Who even cares about most of the rest of their catalog for the most part? But if you get a hold of this, I think you can download it I think it's on Prime, or you can buy it on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. This is a really good documentary to watch. If you're interested, I don't think you can find this anymore, but this was actually put out by a man named Ron Sobel. And this is actually a documentary on the Randy Rhoads years of Quiet Riot. And this is actually a really nice complementary to this thing. But I don't know if this is even in print anymore, because I think you could only get this on DVD. And there was a nice book that came with it too. But so that's going to be my first pick is Quiet Riot.
Excellent. All right.
No argument
from me. It's just funny that they were even really signed. Well, you know what's funny? Has anybody heard the version of Quiet Riot with Rudy Sarzo that's out touring? Well, I think they're going to be in Columbus here, I think, soon. Anybody
the boys in Slade were pretty grateful to Quiet Riot.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
Man, they could not crack it in the States, but Quiet Riot got them a little moolah there recording.
Well, that kind of, they got them a hit here in the States.
There you go.
Runaway was at least got a lot of MTV play.
Well,
I don't know.
That was way down the road.
Yeah. Well, and Mile My got a little bit of play too. So those
poor guys hit the States hard in the early mid 70s. They just couldn't get anywhere.
They couldn't get arrested.
No.
Woo, I was afraid there for a second that John was going to beat me to Dokken. As the resident Warehaus expert on Dokken, the cracks began on the German Carrera version of Breaking the Chain. Wow.
Yikes. Yeah, boy, that's super early.
You just go over to IM5 where Trey is, and he'll tell you all you want to know about Dokken.
My God, that's controversial. Oh, man. Okay. Love that. Nothing but a good time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. On Paramount Plus. Yeah. I watched the first episode of that. I haven't watched the rest of them yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marlon's making an appearance tonight. So
all right. Man.
Everyone look out. Because God knows what he's going to rip on us tonight. Who knows?
I'm probably target one right here.
Moxie 2, it's endless. Everybody's saying hell. Everybody's giving each other high fives. Rudy Sarzo of X of the Fake Guess Who. Well, Jeff,
he was in that for a little bit too.
Have you heard that latest Fake Guess Who album? It is absolutely killer.
Chef's Kiss.
It is a wonderful record.
Fantastic.
It's
Doesn't
fantastic.
sound anything like the Guess Who as we know it, but what a great album.
Marlon, you're late. We talked about Pete Rose.
You missed, Marlon. We gave a beautiful tribute to Pete Rose for about 10 minutes to start the show.
We took had silence for 5 minutes, stared at each other,
put our ball caps over our hearts, all that.
Grant, I actually chat to Earl Johnson from Moxie a few times. Look at you, Sydney rubbing shoulders. Yeah, all right. Well, John, the music nut, are you ready?
I'm ready. Okay. So this band's been around forever. They played at Woodstock. They're still around. There's only one original member. I'm waiting until I get back on. I'm going to talk about Santana. Now, what...
You want me to give the graphic, or you want to talk about it?
You want to put it up, that's fine.
Okay.
But I'll talk a little bit before I go into the album Festival from 1977. Now, a lot of these shows we do, I see a lot of who had the best first 6 album run. And I always see Led Zeppelin for the self-titled through Physical Graffiti. I always see Black Sabbath self-titled through Sabotage. I'll see Queen in there for self-titled through Jazz. My opinion, Santana self-titled through Amigos, just as strong as them, if not more so. And they were changing their sound. The first 3 albums were more Latin rock. They weren't more fusion. Actually, they had a 7-album run. My mistake. First 3 albums, they were more Latin rock, and the most popular materials from those first 3. Next 3, they were going more jazz fusion, which was really big in the early to mid 70s. And then on the 7th album, they went more into this R&B direction, but they still had elements of the other genres I talked about on Amigos, and that was a wonderful album.
Yeah.
And on the 8th album, they do Festival, where they continue in that vein, and they're bringing back some of the Latin rock too. But to me, this is where the cracks started to show because the great songs were gone. They didn't have the single didn't chart at all, and that was Let the Children Play. A lot of this stuff is a lot of the instrumental songs are things that you've heard before. There's a song on here called Gimme Love. That's the Way of the World by Earth, Wind, and Fire Part 2. If you listen, it's the same chord progression, and it's done at the same tempo. The only difference is you don't have those magnificent harmonies and those fantastic lyrics that you heard on Earth, Wind, and Fire's version. So it was like they were trying to find themselves on this album, and I don't think the songs were here and the cracks starting to show. This is a good album, and this is going to be a contrarian take. I don't think they ever made anything this good again, despite the fact they had a lot of success, because then they changed their sound. They got more pop, and a lot of those hit singles were written by professional songwriters, most notably Russ Ballard, or they were cover songs. And then they had that huge hit with Supernatural, but to me, that is a good album and a fantastic marketing decision, because there were some good songs on it, a great one in Smooth, and Carlos Santana is relegated to guest guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
It was just whatever was the flavor of the month at that time. It was a good album, not a great one, and it was very long, like a lot of the albums from the 90s, and I don't think they ever made anything as good as Festival, and I would give this like an 8 out of 10. And I'm not saying everything they did after sucked. I don't think anything sucked. I just think that everything was kind of middle of the road. They got too safe. And whereas those first 7 albums were so adventurous and the songs were so great and the passion was amazing on all those albums. And the Lotus album, the live album, originally released in 74 in Japan and then released in the States in 92, is one of the craziest live albums you'll ever hear. So to me, festivals were, yes, Carlos went commercial. He went commercial, but even then, like, the best songs weren't Santana compositions. So Festival would be my first choice for when the cracks started to develop.
I think that's excellent choice.
There you go.
There it is. I'm going to throw this out. Sydney does have a good point for being Canadian and a hater of Rush. He's got a controversial take. Cracks formed for Journey when Steve Perry joined. They never wanted him there in the first place. Love those early Journey albums.
Cracks formed when Greg Rowley left. That's my opinion.
Isn't it crazy where everybody draws that line? Because if you like that early Journey and their jazz kind of fusion mix or whatever, you're not going to like what Steve Perry brought to the program. But then again, that team up of Perry and Raleigh switching off vocals.
Yeah.
Again,
Well, we played that last night.
Absolutely. That's what I said
Anytime,
last night.
and god dang, is that
Yeah.
freaking good.
It's
So, Sydney, I disagree. I think Infinity, and actually, you probably could bring Pick Pardo up here on that. He loves Infinity. I think Infinity was a peak. Don't you think that? I don't know. I'm throwing it out to the panel.
yeah, that would be my
Oh my God!
number
But
one.
I love it when Greg, and Steve traded off.
Absolutely.
That is perfection.
It's like Foreigner and Brewer, almost.
Well,
Simmer down.
well, that's
Simmer down.
pretty. That's pretty. I'm not sure about that.
I love how this ties in too, because Greg Raleigh was the original singer at Santana.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And you could argue after Greg Raleigh left, they weren't quite the same. I thought they still held it together through festivals.
Here we go, Jeff. Of course, Jeff's going to say this.
Yeah.
I way prefer. Of course, you're going to say that. I could pick you out of a lineup, Jeff. Well, Marathon and Z-Bop were Keith Olsen productions, and I think he did a good job on those.
Really good albums.
I agree.
Inner Sequence is good too.
Good albums. Yeah. I don't think they ever were great again. Good point.
Sydney, of course, Sydney's got to weigh in again. Journeying with Perry is still great, but him joining started a bunch of drama. Not from his side, though. Well, you
Not
could.
like nothing compared to their current drama.
Oof. Oh, no.
Well, okay, let's talk about this for a minute. We're keeping it loose. But don't forget, when they got Steve Perry there, he opened up a whole new world for Journey. They had commercial success. They had chart success. And you know what happens when you start having success? And you have to admit, it was because of him. Yeah, but I think as a collective, think about it. You know, you've got Neil Schoen's guitar playing. The band was a good band, regardless. But having Steve Perry there totally changed their fortunes. And once you do that, it's ruined. Well, to some degree, you know. But yeah, Greg Raleigh, excellent co-lead vocal. Oh my God, that's the best stuff. Mm-hmm. And then evidently someone wants to do, did I read this right? Someone wants me to cover the Village People.
What the?
Ken White wants me to cover the Village People in the Warehouse. Well, Ken, even for me, that's questionable.
The other thing is, their whole catalog's probably only about 2 hours of music, because those albums are really short.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we
Exactly.
critique the 12-inch dance versions of their various tunes.
We probably played one of those, DC.
I think we did on one of our disco
Make me cough.
soirees.
The cracks now are because of the Journey credit card. Yeah.
Oof.
Kane's keyboards were an issue, though. Why would those be an issue? Kane
I think he
Woodley
was so
wasn't.
He wasn't more
valuable.
predominant with King.
He
I
was
thought.
so valuable as a songwriter as well, coming from the Babies. He added a lot to the mix.
I don't think he
It's
wrote very much in the
songs.
Babies, though, did he?
No, but with Journey, he certainly added that flavor. And you need songs.
He wrote
songs.
faithfully.
I'd
Always
much rather have Greg
songs.
Raleigh, though,
Oh, yeah.
writing
Well,
tunes. At least he has some pedigree.
Understood.
Of course, music
I'm the
nut knows
best
the
of,
vi-
of course.
Of course he knows them. Kane was at his best with the Babies. I prefer the original Babies without him in it, but that's okay. Okay, here, look. Sydney, I'm just joking with you. I don't hate Rush. I own every CD just because it was tough listening after Hemisphere. Hold your fire, more like throw in fire.
Sydney's going to be lying
Hey, I like
in
Hold
bed.
Your Fire.
Yeah, he's going to be lying in bed at 3 a.m. looking up at the ceiling. I don't hate Rush. I do
Logan,
like Rush.
Sydney the Rush hater.
Cindy, you and I just need to have a talk. I think that's
Greg
that's
Raleigh
what we
all
need to do.
day, every day. Jeff, you're 100% right. Love Greg Raleigh. I think I have one of his solo albums on vinyl, too. Can you imagine? Wait,
Oh,
can you
yeah, that's
imagine the obscene amount of money on the table for Steve Perry to do a final Journey tour? Bigger than Led Zepp 10 years ago. Could you imagine?
That's a good point. And somebody was mentioning something about the current singer, Ariel. he's having a lot of difficulties right now. That is a tough catalog to sing. That Journey material, the Steve Perry stuff, and I think his voice is finally just.
And that's why
taxed.
Steve Perry's not doing it, because he can't do it.
It's too much. You get to
He
a certain
admits
age.
he knows he can't do it.
Yeah, you get to a certain age and you can't even take
think
that
about
safe note.
Think about on those later
Glenn
records. He
Hughes
was,
could do it.
Yeah.
Oh, Glenn. Wow,
there was the
come on.
drugs.
Yeah, of course, Glenn Hughes, but he can't be in 10 places at once.
Marlon is pointing out that Sydney is wrong. So if Marlon's pointing it out, Sydney, you're wrong. Cain brings the Lord now. Yeah, I think he is a Christian.
Oh, yeah.
Time Stands Still, perfect title as they felt like 3 days listening to it.
Oh, my.
I love Rush, but that's funny.
That is pretty funny.
That is, if I had my drum kit in here, I'd hit the room.
Yeah,
The Storm was a
now,
good band.
Granny, you still doing a pretty
You got
boy
Daryl.
Floyd? I didn't know we were doing a pretty boy
What?
Floyd show. That's a new one. But for that Perry tour, they would have to be tuned down to be standard.
Yeah, that's the thing.
All right.
Sing it in the same key, not going to happen.
All right. I'm going to go now, kids, and I'm going to read something out of this fine publication. Rolling Stone Record Guide from 1979. And we're talking about this artist, and they said that except for 2 passable Motown covers, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours, and Roadrunner, I'm in You merely confirm the fact that Peter Frampton has little to say, but a very pretty way of saying it. And that was from JCC, the Rolling Stone Record Guide. So you guessed it. We're going to go with Peter Frampton, I'm in You. Now, I'm not dogging Peter Frampton as a guitar player, as a musician.
Great.
I saw him. My wife took me as a birthday present to go see Cheap Trick and Peter Frampton. Peter Frampton as a guitar player, I think's absolutely stunning. So I'm not talking about his ability as a player. But after Frampton Comes Alive, 76, 75?
6.
76.
Yeah.
Big record. How can anybody produce a record after that? Well, Peter did do that, and he decided to unbutton his shirt. It seems like a theme. Is this like a Grand Funk theme? I don't know.
I don't
But
know.
anyway.
You would think Peter had enough juice at that moment, because I think this is more record company shenanigans than Peter actually wanting to go that route looking at that album cover. I don't think that's Peter. I think that's the record company wanting to even bring in more money as like a teen idol or for the ladies.
That screams Teen Idol to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And considering the type of material on here. Now, okay, I could take devil's advocate and go, well, don't forget. Big successful album, 1976. I'm sure he even toured to promote Comes Alive. I'm sure he did. He was probably tired, exhausted. The record company probably went, Pete, love you, baby. We got to have a record in the stores. Maybe that's the fact. But this also marked a shift. Like I said, the Rolling Stone guy only liked the covers, and I think the Rolling Stone review has a good point. This marked a shift. This is much more contemporary pop influenced compared to his earlier rock work, I think.
Yes.
So it's a little bit more commercial. It's an
not
okay
good.
record. Huh?
Not a good record.
It's not a good record. It ended up in the cutout bins. It just didn't do anything. I mean, it was commercially successful. Of course, it didn't reach the commercial heights of Frampton Comes Alive, which, how could you? He hit his peak.
Impossible task.
Impossible task.
I like his
But-
song about his dog, though. Rocky's Heart Club. That's a good one.
But it just seems like,
It doesn't rock, but it's a good one.
I just don't think Peter Frampton knew what to do. I think he probably couldn't handle the success.
I
Think this is where the cracks started to form for me.
he was
I
probably
don't-
between a rock and a hard place at this time, because they were wanting an album. I saw him at Cleveland Stadium while he was touring with the live album thingy, and they probably wanted a new album out there like right now, Not a lot of material, taking a lot of BS from the record company. So there you go. This is what you get.
I don't know what the panel thinks, but the track "I'm in You." I mean, do you listen to that in what that, John?
I've never even.
I'm in you.
I've never even listened to this album. So.
That was actually his biggest hit as far as chart wise, and it is terrible.
Zappa makes fun of it, and I have been in you.
Yeah, if he didn't have to appeal to the teen audience, it was going to be
Gene Simmons,
I'm
Peter
in
Frampton.
You.
Peter Frampton probably was in a lot of people, I'm assuming, based on that photo. But I don't know. I don't think this is a very good record. I do have the CD of it, and I've hardly ever returned to it. Now, his earlier records, though, I don't think that they capture quite what Peter Frampton really sounded like. I think Frampton Comes Alive really captures that sound.
Correct.
I don't think any of those earlier records are bad by any means. I do really think that this is a bad record.
The album before Frampton Comes Alive, it's just called Frampton.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's
Fantastic.
good. Yeah. But Frampton Comes Alive really nailed it. He's really a great live performer. And like I said, when we saw him a couple years ago, absolutely, what a great player. And you know what? He does deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, ladies and gentlemen, I would say.
I love
Based
his
on his-
guitar playing. I love it. I love what he did with Humble Pie.
Yes.
Although he tried to sing a lot like Steve Marriott, and he may have been just wanting to get out and do his own thing, but he was fantastic in Humble Pie as well.
Oh, we can start the show now. Ashley's here. Ashley, we were just warming up. All right, let's start the show.
Someone was giving me shit about having the name wrong about the current Journey singer. How do you say his name? I was calling him the Little Mermaid.
Arnell. What'd you call him?
Arnell. I call him Ariel, like the mermaid.
Ariel.
Arnell. Sorry, folks.
Marlon
Arnell.
says, if I hear "Do You Feel Like I Do" again, I'm gonna. I still like that, though. Ashley, thanks for coming. I appreciate you here. Frampton rules. He's hilarious to boot. Yep. I'm going backwards.
He lived in Cincinnati for a long time.
Well, yeah. His wife was there, and then he divorced and he moved to Nashville. Left us. Jason's never been a fan, all right, but he's a great guitar player. Here we go. Peter Frampton wasn't a flashy player. No, Peter Frampton was a tasty player.
So melodic, just beautiful lead runs.
Well, he had a sound though that was different than anybody else.
Yeah,
I don't know if he was doing two amps or some effect that he had going on.
Yeah, I agreed. Good point.
Grant probably knows what I'm talking about.
I know everything. I
Give
totally
us the
can decipher what
technical-
you're saying, BM. Wait a minute. So Peter wasn't a flashy player in the age of guitar heroes, which was the 70s. He really didn't stand out in the crowd, but the things that he had, he didn't need to be flashy because he was so tasty and his solos were so fluid and they fit the song perfectly. Yeah. And he had a wonderful, still does, wonderful tonality.
Yeah. I don't care how fast you can play. It's what you play.
It's what you play.
Yeah.
You know, David Gilmour, here now it's Grant's Guitar Warehouse. David Gilmour might not be a flashy player, but you cannot deny that he's so fluid and his notes are all well thought out. Peter Frampton, same kind of player, as far as I'm concerned.
No doubt.
Peter Frampton's Fingerprints and Thank You, Mr. Churchill, good records. Yeah, Brian, I think Peter, later on in his career, Fingerprints is a great instrumental record. He put out some really good records, but I think I Am in You, I don't know if it was the cocaine or the hair product. Something got to him, and it made his shirt unbutton. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, self-titled 1994 is a very good record, too.
Yeah. So there's great stuff.
Very good.
I would recommend you go out and checking some Peter Frampton, but don't start on this record. So, all right, let's keep going. Let's go over to Mr. BM Bolt. What's your next one, Mr. Bolt?
DC's
DC's got something?
I got nothing. I'm just here to
He's the color commentary.
Okay, it's the color commentary. Okay.
Show the
truth, folks.
Show the possum. Thank you. All right.
I'd like to comment when you give me a chance.
All right. This may be controversial.
Oh God!
I'm waiting
That's
for Grant to chime in on this.
Oh,
one.
I'll chime in on it. Don't worry.
He may not agree.
I don't agree.
You do?
I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
You're out of your goddamn mind.
Okay, so
Remember, I picked Boston the last time, so
this is so.
Yeah, you were there. There's some
Everybody's heard
problems
this
there.
album, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And they've made a lot of albums before this. This is a total classic album. Nothing wrong with it. It's a little. They even got some prog to it.
Yeah.
Great album. Then they came out with this album.
Great album.
My favorite.
Great album. Still got a little bit of prog in it. It's just fantastic.
Are you basing this on the amount of prog on a record? Is that what I'm reading?
Not necessarily. Then they came out with
Another great album.
and it's a good album. It's not as good as the previous 2 or 3. But this, in my opinion, is where the crack started to form.
Okay.
The lead-off single is Babe. Okay. Fine for a ballad. It's all right, but then they wanted to really, somebody, I don't know if it was Dennis or the management or whoever, the record company said, well, let's do First Time for the next single. At that point, Tommy Shaw said,
Right on.
I'm out of here. You guys released that as a single. Because
That doesn't
this is a
sound
rock
like a
band,
single to me.
Not a ballad band. So there started to, I think, be some serious friction in the band at this point. Because Tommy says he wants to rock, although we could probably argue about whether he really did want to rock later. But but Dennis wasn't really feeling like rocking anymore, it seemed like, at least on this album. So to me, this is where the cracks happen. Now, I think Paradise Theater was a strong album as well.
Yes.
But I think what's going on here is that you're starting to see Dennis is really driving the band at this point. I think that this is a Dennis-driven album, but it still rocks pretty well.
Yes.
And I think Tommy was happy with probably the way this one came out. But then, there's the whole Kilroy thing where I feel like Dennis completely took over the band and maybe Tommy just let it happen. And I know he was not happy with the whole acting in the stage shows stuff they were doing. But I just feel like Dennis was just controlling the band, starting with Cornerstone and then into Paradise Theater. And then by Kilroy, it was over.
Okay.
So that's my take. Now, Grant's going to totally shoot all that.
When I was a kid, and a lot of these records, I determined if there were cracks when I was young. And I was a big Styx fan ever since The Grand Illusion. Okay. When Cornerstone came out, I didn't detect any slippage in quality at all. You may say that the record sounds a little more sterile. They changed engineers. They might have changed studios too. So it's not quite as warm as Pieces of Eight and Grand Illusion.
There's no prog really.
Well, so you're basing it all on prog.
I like the prog.
Don't forget, Sydney does. Byron just hates Babe. It's a wedding song. Byron loves to get. He's got the trophy wife. He loves weddings. He and his wife go on these little adventures all the time. Come on, he loves Babe. Don't let him fool you. Elder, I saw Styx on the Cornerstone tour, and they were as good. A lot of lighters hit during Babe. Babe was good for.
Tour.
I was on that tour.
I was there.
I was like 13, and I didn't detect any problems with this record at all. I just detected it changed just a little bit in production, but I pull this album just as much as the other ones. I don't have a problem with this record at all. I love it. I don't know. I don't have a problem. Well, to each his own, but I think the cracks really formed. It has to be. I don't think there were any cracks here. at all. Byron can't let it go.
I think there was a lot of division in the band, starting to develop in the band.
Of course, more money, more success.
There you go.
Let's be honest. Dennis brought him singles. He brought him success. It's the
That had
traditional.
to stick in a couple of their craws. I don't think the Panazzo brothers cared, but the other guys were probably a little stymied.
I bet the Panazzo brothers loved it.
Oh, you bet.
Sydney says Byron secretly sings "Babe" in the shower with his wife in the other room.
She's in the shower with me. What are you talking about?
How do you know, Sydney?
Oh my God! Logan Collins, Kilroy says Kilroy. Now, Paradise Theater, no cracks, a good record. It has the same tonality as Cornerstone. All right, Cornerstone, Paradise Theater, and Kilroy all sound the same. They all had the same engineer, same production, blah, blah, blah. They all sound very similar. Cracks were on Kilroy because when I was a kid, that's when I noticed it. And I went, oh, Jesus, we're in trouble. Paradise Theater, great. Different. They are all different records, but I don't think I think the cracks happened on Kilroy.
I think the song "Babe" overwhelms people's opinion of the whole album. I have no problem
Jeff,
with "Babe." I think it's a great ballad.
Was there a problem with Styx 2 when it had Lady on it? What's the difference between Lady and Babe?
Babe is
What?
a little more
Lady
ballady.
rocks.
Lady
Yeah,
rocks.
Lady
Yeah.
rocks.
Come on.
Lady rocks.
L Val 57 says
Barely
Babe,
Manless
stinks.
should like Babe. That's right up Barely's.
STYNX. Clever.
I don't have a problem with it. Because now I have a newfound appreciation for Dennis. If you listen to those last 2 Dennis solo albums that came out on Frontiers, oh my God, I have a whole new appreciation for Dennis.
He's a real character. When he
Those
was on,
2 records he put out recently are killer.
when he was on Pete's show, my God, that guy is like a 3-ring circus.
Yeah,
Very
he's
entertaining.
great. He's great. Paradise Theater's where Dennis DeYoung was flirting with his Broadway ambitions, and then Kilroy happened. But what's wrong with? Is there something wrong with Paradise Theater? I don't.
It led to
See
Kilroy,
anything?
which destroyed the band.
Well, that's fine. They never recovered from it, But don't forget, Styx had a good. Think about most bands. Started out 73, and then broke up 84. That's a good run.
I like this appropriate comment for 2024. Lady has some more balls to it.
Yep.
Lady has
Definitely.
some more balls
To it.
It's true.
And Babe is more
I still don't
agree.
think
I
it's that
there's
far
a-
off.
Oh, I disagree, Grant. There's a
Okay,
Babe.
I don't care.
Totally different. It's better than First Time, though.
So anyway, gentlemen, let's just keep continuing.
What?
And we will. What?
We
What
we
happened?
lost a couple people.
Oh, we did? Huh, I wonder what happened.
In mid-sentence, mind you. There we go.
I have no idea what happened. Huh. Someone with the eject button took him out. D Rocker, look at the possum's angry.
He's like
D Rocker says, I would take. Okay,
he's like Eddie Money there. He's shaking.
Oh my God, yeah.
got rabies. No, they don't get rabies. I would take Equinox and Crystal Ball over Cornerstone and Paradise Theater.
Oh, I love Equinox. That's my favorite Styx album.
But
I'm an
Byron's
old man.
about. He says that. All right. Oh, wait a minute. Okay.
Who'd we lose now? We'll ask John the music nut.
It's just
No.
the order.
No,
The order got
Oh, there
order's
he
different.
is. There he is.
All right, Babe is better than Lady, I think. Thank you, Dave. Well, I don't think it's any better. I think it's about the same.
It's a different vibe.
The possum was shaken.
Oh, yeah.
Here
So,
we
Ant-
go.
Go ahead.
No, was Kilroy cracked or a tsunami victim? What does that mean, Eric?
I understand the band has started to work Kilroy back into the repertoire.
Marlon says Lady over Babe. God, I wish I could start a poll here.
To Metal Roger, I would answer it's not. It wouldn't be the Elder. I would go as far as Destroyer. Even though Destroyer's a great album, there was the cracks. That's where the cracks, I think, started going with Kiss.
Holy
not the Elder.
Oh boy, this is going to get controversial.
Don't bring up Kiss, you guys. We'll never get out.
Oh, I'm not going to talk about Kiss tonight.
Well, when we were kids, we thought Destroyer was a great record.
Oh,
And
me too.
okay, great record. They finally have a good drum sound. We liked all the songs.
I like Detroit Rock City, but I was a little older than you guys. So when Destroyer came out, even with that fantastic Kelly Jones painted cover and all the accoutrements, I thought, they're getting a little too cartoony for me. And I'm a cartoon guy.
Roger, my favorite Kiss album probably is Music from the Elder.
It's currently mine.
There you go. Twisted Sister, come out and play.
John and I already did a series on Twisted Sister, so
yeah.
we talk all about the cracks there.
Holy.
Certainly do.
Channel Grumps Hate Babe. Sydney says Destroy has 2 good songs. Sydney, you've already proven that you've lost all credibility earlier in this program, so you don't have to say anything.
Oh.
Well, really? Hemispheres? Jesus. I agree with DC.
Boy.
Equinox is amazing.
My favorite, all Styx albums.
Animalize was when Gene sort of dropped out.
Oh, Gene sort of dropped out. Well, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, runaway movie. Yep.
Love Gun and Rock and Roll Over are better than Destroyer, and they came later. Thoughts on the panel?
I thought
I like Rock and Roll Over. Not big on Love Gun.
Yeah. I think looking back, I probably would put Rock and Roll over Love Gun and Destroyer these days.
Yeah.
Even though I can't hear Peter's kick drum and Rock and Roll Over, there's like, I don't know why. It's just where's the kick drum? I don't hear it.
Good point.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I put the Elder with Saint Anger. Roger, jeez.
Jeez, a whiz, Metal Roger. Man.
Rock and Roll Over is 70s Kiss best.
I agree, but I'm an older gentleman.
Oh, no. Here we go with the tall water references.
Oh, here we go with the tall water.
All right, so I disagree with Mr. BM Bolt. I think Kilroy was the cracks. Every band has issues. I don't detect anything. I think Tommy's songwriting here's good.
You said the game had cracks. That was a solid album.
But that's where the cracks started to form.
This is where the cracks started to form.
Don't Try Suicide's a horrible thing. God. That's a horrible record. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to go, what?
I was going to say, it's all...
Are you good, BM, Mr. Bolt?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Logan, the game rules. Where's his wrench again? I've taken it before. Grant, don't start. I'm going to start it.
Give him give him a plier.
All right, let's keep going. Let's go over to Johnny Metal. Metal.
All right. So I know a lot of people got a little confused when I picked Boston last time, and keep in mind, it's a great album, but think of everything that was going on behind the scenes. And I think that's more of where it may not have shown in the music per se, but there was enough stuff behind the scenes. And so for all of you all in the comments, y'all can kind of drift off in your own conversation, because I'm going to talk about a band that nobody knows, unless you're into Christian music like I am. So one thing I'm going to talk about here is half my life ago was a time of my life where I had made a lot of different changes in my life. I was a different person back then. So there was a band that I would eventually come to know. And it's a Christian hip hop band. I know this is going to be really weird coming from somebody named Johnny Metal, but again, you kind of have to know who I am as a person and know some of the deeper story behind me. So, and an album I'm going to talk about here is this thing here called, is from a band called DC Talk. And the album is called Free at Last. Now, why am I picking Free at Last? Well, this actually has a documentary that they were starting to film, but they never quite finished it, and then they just decided to release it in its rough form. And so you kind of see the behind the scenes of the band. This band kind of shot pretty big and pretty popular in their first couple of albums. And I think that caught them by surprise. I don't, it's a little unusual for Christian albums to go gold. And so when those first couple albums really made the big time, well, superstardom kind of hits even Christians. It hits them kind of big. So in this one, one of the guys, I'm going to kind of point here. So this guy here, Kevin Smith, K-Max, Kevin Max, whatever you want to call him. He was probably the one that was probably the most wandering of the three. The guy in the middle here, Toby Mac, he would go on to do a very productive career in Christian hip hop. Probably one of the best known names in Christian hip hop. Right up there with like Lecrae and guys like that.
What's his name again?
Toby Mac.
Oh yeah, somebody just gave me a bunch of his CDs the other day.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Go ahead.
This last guy, Michael Tate, he now sings with another Christian band called the Newsboys. Anyway, so these guys, this album is it's still a mix of hip hop with a little bit of rock. They actually do kind of a take of Jesus Is Just All Right. Well done song. But this has a lot of good explores, a lot of good themes, but there's a lot of cracks behind the band. And so, I know, Jeff, a little weird. Like I said, y'all in the comments can tune out and just while I talk about this. Anywho, a lot of cracks. They were kind of wanting to go their own separate ways a little bit. K-Max was kind of questioning a lot and eventually would come around, but then they would, their next album would be this one called Jesus Freak, which is an amazing album. Would sell at least 2 or 3 times platinum, which is really unusual for Christian music. But this would where it would cross into like a lot of grunge and alternative music and stuff like that. So this was a very seminal album for them. And then their final album, Supernatural, maybe didn't do quite as good, but it was still a strong album. And the possums are out again. Anyway, they would break up after this album, and there's one of them. There's Toby Mac right there. So
look at that.
Yep, that's probably one of his best known ones right there. This is
never heard of that. So
well, like I said, I'm not so much into Toby quite so much because I'm not a hip hop guy, but I dug the Jesus Freak album and I dug the Supernatural album. I saw that tour, and I really enjoyed that tour. But yeah, the band kind of went their own way, they just kind of went their own way. And Toby went on to do a solo career that has done well for himself. Unfortunately, a couple of years ago, he lost a son to suicide, unfortunately, which was a very sad story. Michael Tate does well with the Newsboys. K-Max is kind of doing his own thing. He's not quite associating himself with Christian music quite so much, but a lot of people kind of want to see the band get back together, but it probably is never going to happen. They seem to be kind of fine doing their own thing. So there you go. So for all the people in the comments, now you can come back to the chat and tune back in. Ken White. I love White Cross. Great band.
Oh yeah, let's go back up to that. Hold on. God, that was a while ago.
The singles from this group I loved, and I have them somewhere on my hard drives.
Good bands there, Ken.
I just didn't think that the whole albums would be what the singles were, so I never pursued it. But the singles that band released are primo.
Oh,
great stuff.
A lot of good stuff. A lot of great songwriting in there, and they just mixed everything so well, and it was good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, Patriot Text. I love DC Talk. Free at Last is a great record, but Kevin Max's smootiness and Toby Max's control issues doom the band.
Yeah. Bingo. That's exactly a Patriot Text. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Canada had the Rap Giants and Kid and Play.
They had the biggest haircuts.
We need some Satan talk, Merciful Fate. Oh, what are we going to do with you, Roger? For goodness sakes. Johnny Metal, slowly I turn, step by step, inch by inch.
To answer Dan, kind of, sort of, but I think the guitar player Bruce, I believe he would identify more with Christianity, and I think an early drummer I think had eventually, but I don't think I don't think they were a Christian band per se, but they had a lot of Christian themes in their music.
While we got this topic going, I spoke of a group from my hometown, Youngstown, Glass Harp. The guitarist
Harp.
Phil
Phil
Kagi. Oh, you want to talk about guitarists?
Whoa.
Check him out, folks. And
I look at my hands and I'm like, you could play.
How does he do that?
You could play that because he's missing this part of his finger on his right hand.
Yeah, it's the crazy,
And
like
so
the Tony
I'm
Iommi.
And I'm like, you could play this, right? I'm like, I was listening to his album on the way home from Pennsylvania on the flight back, and it was an acoustic album, and it's just
mind-blowing.
Beautiful. Just him on the guitar, nothing else. Absolute wonderful album.
I mentioned this group one time before, and then I'll shut up. If you like the Beatles, check out a Christian rock band called Pray for Rain.
Yes, PFR,
wow,
great
what
band.
Songs and great variety. A very good band.
Great band. Love PFR.
So Phil Kagi is from Youngstown.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Yes, sir.
So Glass Harp, they formed in Youngstown, and then
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of Glass Harp albums.
Yeah.
I think they were on Decca back in the day. Which turned into
Rolodex of
MCA.
my mind isn't.
I don't
They
know.
were on a major label. I just can't
Yeah.
recall right now which one, but they were huge in my town.
I never said you can worship the devil in music, but man sings Christian music and get shit on.
Yeah.
Okay. Words are hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. There. John Schlitt was in Head East before he became the singer for Petra. That is correct.
Was John Schlitt? Was he like one of the main vocalists in Head East?
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was the singer when they did Since You've Been Gone.
Okay.
The original singer.
Okay. I didn't know that. See, we're learning something here, ladies and gentlemen. I love it. Okay, as a kid, I always remember hearing about the band Petra. I assume they were Christian Rolling Stones by now.
Yeah, they're still kind of touring a little bit. Yeah, they're still out there.
Logan, did you need me to
who would have thought we'd be talking about Christian music on Grants Rock Warehouse? Go figure that out.
Glass Harp were good friends with the James Gang.
That's probably true.
You're correct, Marlon, because all that Northeast Ohio, James Gang, Glass Harp, the Raspberries, Left End, there was Blue Ash was also from Youngstown.
John
Lots
Taylor
of good
says,
bands.
why don't any of you Ohio boys ever talk about good old Stiv Bators?
Stiv Bators lived in my hometown.
Does everybody live with you, DC?
There's a lot of creative people that came out of Youngstown for a Steel City. I'm not shitting you. Stiv Bators played in a band that played at my high school called Mother Goose, and it was like Alice Cooper to the 10th power. This was an after football game, and this band Mother Goose was just like, I don't even think the faculty knew what the hell to do with what was going on at this dance, because they had this whole orchestrated kind of Alice Cooper thing going on. Yeah, but Stiv Bators from the Dead Boys is also from Youngstown.
I think Head East probably could use another. No one talks about them. I'm going to write that down. Whenever I need to sleep, I put on some Alice Cooper. Me too. Stiv or Stiff?
Stiv.
Stiv. Steel Wind.
But not Svedi. Not Svedi, but Stiv.
Here we go. D-Rocker. Steel Wind, Heaven's Calling from 2000, and New Jerusalem self-titled from 97 are two great Christian rock releases. All right.
Grants Rock Warehouse, your home for Christian rock and sports.
Right. I used to sleep to Heaven and Hell. I think that's a good record to go to sleep by. DC Glass.
Ken, right?
DC Glass Harp is awesome. Phil Kagi is a fantastic guitar player. Yep. All right, well, let's keep her moving. You guys keep it coming. That was your. Thank you all for the positive comments. Now, you could have even just said that, John, but
I didn't want to take it. I didn't want to take up any more time.
No, it's fine. We're hanging out. DC Talk was another band never realized north of the border. Well, kinda. My music corner, Ernesto's giving it a thumbs up. Oh, DC, don't forget Maurice Claret.
He was quite a stunning running back from Youngstown back in the day. Since we're talking sports too.
All right,
He was a one and done.
Yeah.
The original one and done.
Pretty much. Yes, sir.
Rex Carroll from White Cross 80s albums is a great guitarist. Some great Christian
Absolutely.
bands had great guitar for it. Yep.
Rex could shred amongst the best of them. Yeah. He could be right up there with like a Warren DeMartini or even an Eddie or any of those guys. Rex is a fantastic player.
Older Boy's first albums are good.
Yeah.
All right. Black Sabbath, best Christian rock. All right,
that's a good point. One last thing. Black Sabbath was never about devil worship. Black Sabbath was always about good versus evil.
Correct.
And don't be a dick. And if you're going to believe, why would you believe, and worship Satan if you know the other end of it is God? And Black Sabbath was always about good versus evil, not we love you, Satan. So, agreed.
And Sydney, to answer your question, the DC and DC Talk, I believe, stands for Decent Christian Talk.
Okay.
As are my initials.
There you go. All right, let's throw it over to John the Music Nut for his next pick. That was a good discussion. That's why we're doing these shows. This is great.
You never know what you're going to get, folks.
I learned who Toby Mac was.
See? All right, John, you've got it. You're up.
All right, thanks. Barely Manilow, you mentioned this band about 20 minutes ago, but I'm going to talk about a different album. And I wish I had... Herbie. I was just going to say, dude, Kelly Pavlik. That guy hit like a fucking truck.
Gee,
oh, yeah.
That guy.
Whoa, Youngstown, I'm telling you, people.
Boxer, but he had a right hand that would knock out a raging bull.
Yeah.
You want to see a great knockout? Watch his first fight. His first fight with Jermaine Taylor. It was on HBO, and Taylor was the heavy favorite, and he got off the canvas, and he knocked Taylor out in the seventh, and the referee, Steve Smoger, he didn't even bother counting.
Yeah, just done.
Pavlik, I mean, he eventually, Bernard Hopkins gave him a boxing lesson, but up until that fight, oh gosh, he beat Taylor twice. He beat Jose Luis Ortucci. That was a hell of a knockout too. Yeah. That guy for a few years there, that guy could punch, man. Anyway.
Yeah. Boy, there are some tough cats from Youngstown. Believe me.
Holy
balls.
No doubt
What's
about
left
it.
of Youngstown?
What's left? I mean, it's a tough area to grow up in and live. So, yeah, pretty gritty people there.
No doubt.
All right, John,
about it.
carry it away.
And me.
And DC. Yeah.
So, Def Leppard. Okay. So they were riding so high in the 80s and they changed their sound to accommodate Rick Allen. Rick Allen lost his arm, so they updated their sound. They gave him an electronic drum kit. Came back with a stereo, whether you like the album or you don't like it. It was a very impressive comeback. And it took almost 5 years to release the album I'm going to talk about, which is Adrenalize. Now, the cracks here, unlike the album I talked about before, were thick. Because I think what happened with Def Leppard is when Steve Clark died, they were never the same. Even if they sold millions and millions of records and they've been now going out touring every summer, playing all those great 80s hits, they were never the same after Steve because he was the main songwriter in that band. And I listened to this album again today. I never bought it because I didn't like it in 92 and I don't like it now. And you're right, Sydney. There's little cracks on it.
There are. Isn't that a pupil? What is that? It looks like an eyeball or...
It's like,
like an iris in the pupil.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's happening there, but there are cracks.
That's how Bruce Banner's eyes are when he turns into the Hulk.
I agree, Ken. It is all about the music, but I just didn't think the music was as good anymore. I didn't think the songs were as good anymore. And you don't have to look any further than the singles, which I don't even know if they play any of these singles live anymore, except for maybe Let's Get Rocked, a band who wrote great songs, but they weren't the greatest lyricists. Wow, did these lyrics go downhill on these songs? Let's Get Rocked, I mean, has been mocked for how bad its lyrics have been. There you go, Byron. That's right.
It's on my list the next time we do one.
What did you do, Byron? I missed it.
Wall
Oh boy!
puncher.
Oh, wall puncher. We're
Everybody's
due
starting-
for we're due for a wall puncher show.
We do the holidays. We'll save that for the holiday season, maybe.
There you go. Wall
Let's
puncher.
go all the way. Let's do it night and day. Come on. Let's get rocked. No,
That's not good.
not good. Even worse.
Sydney says
That
"Let's
sounded
get
better than when
rocked."
Joe Elliott sings it.
Yeah, it does.
Make love like a man. The pre-chorus sounds
What
like
the-
something that Engelbert Humperdinck would have wrote back in the 70s. Don't call me Gigolo. Don't call me Casanova. Just pick up the phone and baby, come on over. Can you imagine? Engelbert Humperdinck. Don't call me Gigolo. I mean, can you imagine that? After the love and yeah. That's an Engelbert Humperdinck lyric.
That's a good point. That's funny.
Thank you. Stand up, kick love into motion. Here's something to keep in mind. Mutt Lange produced this album. You know what he produced the year before? Bryan Adams, Waking Up the Neighbors. Stand Up is a Bryan Adams lame song from 91. And there's a where the cracks started to form too.
Yes, I agree, 100%. Yeah.
Have you ever needed someone so bad? This was a top 20 hit. When's the last time you heard it? Because it's not good.
Yeah.
I remember when this came out and people were like, oh, well, White Lightning's so good because it's the tribute to Steve Clark. Okay, it's all right. But if you compare that to Gods of War on Hysteria, it comes up very short in comparison. And then, oh, well, Tear It Down is so good. It rocks so, it's so spirited. It rocks so much. And I was like, yeah, but I remember when this was the norm and not the exception. So this album didn't do anything that Hysteria did. And you know, they had two huge albums there with Pyromania and Hysteria. I don't think they ever recovered. They did Slang. A lot of people shit on Slang. I give them credit for trying something different.
I like
I
Slang.
like slang.
I like
Yeah,
Slang
is
too.
good. But
Very different album for them, though.
yeah.
Byron, you like slang?
I think I've sampled it, and is it kind of grungy?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, everybody was doing grunge.
Byron, you like slang? I drop an F-bomb now and then. But
No comment. I gave up on them.
I gave up after slang, but yeah.
The
Adrenaline?
Or Adrenalize, actually.
Oh,
I
it's
got so sick-
Hysteria.
I got so sick of Hysteria, I didn't even bother with Adrenalize. So.
Yeah, George, you make a very good point there. As much as I love Vivian Campbell, I don't know what he really brought to Def Leppard on a writing standpoint. Am I wrong, John, or do you agree?
I don't know what Vivian. I mean, Vivian's just wasting his talent there, in my opinion. I don't see the point of him being in the band personally, but
Well,
other
he gets
than
to go
other
on
than
tour
other than the money,
and make money.
and that he wasn't getting along with Dio, so I guess he had to do something. But yeah, it's a head scratch why Vivian's still in the band, but go figure.
oh,
Hey,
I
John-
disagree with John Patterson.
We did a show
Love
on
Bomb.
we did a show on Tube's Love Bomb, and
That
it
second
fared
side
well.
of that album is like the Tube's version of Todd Rundgren's Something Anything, or I mean Wizard of True Star. It's just a mishmash of interesting little musical snippets. I love it, but we all hear things different.
That's
yeah,
true,
I
Ken.
know, Marlon. It's profanity, not slang, but doing the best we can, flying by the seat of my pants. They're not
And
all
another-
winners.
All right. And
5
another
years.
thing there, Ken, the musical climate changed completely by 92. This is when Nirvana and Pearl Jam were taking over the world for a little while there. So the fact that they made this album that went even more poppy, and I will say the deep cuts on here, I listen to these again, I'm like, Personal Property, that isn't bad. Heaven isn't bad, but oh gosh, I mean, the cracks here, I mean, if you compare this to what came before, this drop off is nearly as big as Win, Lose, or Draw was for the Allman Brothers after those great records they did.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Excellent choice.
Thank you.
Some people think that Pyromania is it, and the only real, well, they turned into a pop band on Pyromania. Def Leppard turned into a pop band.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think about the idea? You got to add another guitarist. Do you go for a guy who's more of a songwriter or a guy who's a better player? I'll take a songwriter every time.
What if you already have the great songwriter, though? Then what do you do?
That adds to the mix and better material. The more guys that can write tunes, probably when you come time to cut an album, the more good stuff we got to pick from. Hopefully. Maybe not.
Depends on what you need.
Yeah. But I mean, a player, I'll take a songwriter. I mean, there's very few artists that I buy just for the playing of the instruments. It's for me, it's the songs. But
yeah, it all comes down to the songs to me.
It does. It does. All right, John, that was a good choice. All right. DC, you have anything to add? Anything else before I go?
Way too much.
No, you're fine. This is good. We're due to have the possum hold up, though.
What do you want?
Thank you. No way Joe Elliott could sing Dio. No. I don't think he can really sing. Though on those first two Def Leppard albums, he sounds like a different person.
You sound like Brian Johnson.
Yeah, he sounds good on there. And then when Mutt Lange got a hold of him, I don't know what happened. What was the last Mutt Lange album?
Wait,
Def
was
Leppard.
With them or with anybody?
No, with Def Leppard. What was
I think it was Adrenalize.
I think it was too.
Okay.
He wasn't. I know he wasn't involved in slaying.
Has he ever worked with them since?
I doubt it.
I'm going to say no, because not too long after that, he was producing Shania Twain.
Yeah, well, I get that. Yeah. I'd take a follow-up to the debut, even if it didn't sell. And they faded into obscurity at that point over the Mutt Lange and the later albums.
Actually, it says here, producer for Adrenalize was Mike Shipley.
Oh.
Okay. Well.
At least that's what Wiki here says. Although, let's see. He's an executive producer.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm just going by what Wiki says.
Okay.
Yeah, the cracks formed when Mutt Lange was fooled when he fooled around to Shania.
And here's a little trivia question for all the horror fans out there. Pamela Springsteen, who was in the Sleepaway Camp movies 2 and 3 at least, and the sister to Bruce, did photography for Adrenalize.
There you go.
All right, cool. All right, cool. All right. Well, I'm going to go now. And thanks for having me on the show, gentlemen. We're going to go with a band that's about ready to put out another record. And I thought, hey, this is a perfect time. Actually, I had another record and then I thought I'd change it. I had like one of those come to Jesus moments. And I thought we'd talk about The Cure. Now, when did The Cure exactly show some cracks? Because I think this album's okay.
Wish?
Well, I used to think Wish.
Okay.
But I don't think it was Wish, because I think if I listened... Actually, I listen to Wish now, and everything's great on it. It's not dark like Disintegration. Wish is a happy record.
Yes.
This record does have wild mood swings, because it's depressing, but then it's uppity. But then this record, I think, starts out... I need to get the song listing together, but this is the final. Okay. How should I approach this? When I listen to this record, I think it starts off strong, but then I think it just kind of falls apart. This album does not have David M. Allen as a producer. And the way I looked at Dave Allen was he was like the fifth member of The Cure. He knew exactly what to do. The last album he produced, that was Wish, and I think it's fine. That has the sound. Though this starts out with the sound. But it does go all over the place as far as mood swings. It's true. But I think this is the album where I think that the songwriting is not as strong. Someone mentioned Cornerstone. The songwriting on Cornerstone is not as strong as what came before. This is the case here. And it just sounds, is it the 90s? Did The Cure have a problem going into the 90s? Possibly. But the sound here, for one, Robert Smith is way too hot in the mix. And it just, that drives me crazy. And a lot of the production here kind of drives me crazy because it's such a, how do I want to put it? It's such a, the brain, gentlemen, the brain departure from what came before. Now, I know nothing can stay the same, but look, we're in 1996. Look how long it took for The Cure to come out with 94. What did I put, 96 on there?
No,
All right, typo again.
Yeah,
it took them 4 years after Wish. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me.
I don't know
I love
anything
The
about
Cure,
them.
but I think, let me do something.
You know, the
Okay.
singles off that didn't grab me at all.
But man, when I listen to this record, oh, it starts off so freaking good. One of the best Cure songs ever, in my opinion. Starting off with Want. Oh my God. I think it's as strong as anything they'd ever had. And then it goes to Club America, which I think's okay. But as the record keeps going, it just loses me. It just mixture of pop and with this whole depressing aspect. But it just, the production's bad. The songs aren't there. I'll keep it simple. I just think this is where things fell apart. And they never, ever put out a record as strong as Disintegration or Wish, for that matter, ever again. And I think this is where it just started. They just never recovered. Now it could be, look, this is a band from the 80s. God, they're clear into the mid 90s. That's a pretty good run. So they had a lot better run than most people. But I just think, I don't know. I just don't think that this is a very good record. Some songs are great. 3 songs on here are great. The rest, just not good.
And did they ever really recover from that?
No.
Because I'm not a big Cure fan, but because this is kind of when I checked out.
This is where I was checking out.
Okay.
Everybody checked out after Wish. This record just didn't really do anything. And it, I think maybe it's a little bit more looked at favorably now. But, you know, when you look over the reviews of this record back in the day, it only got like, you know, most of their stuff would get like 4 or 5 stars. This only got like a 3-star review for the most part. So it's just okay.
Okay.
But ever since then, none of their records have really taken off. Blood Flowers, which was supposed to be part of that trilogy with Disintegration and Pornography, I thought that was weak. Some people like it, but it just sounds forced. That's the thing. A lot of these Cracks records, a lot of this stuff sounds forced. Wild Mood Swings to me sounds forced on some of it. Starts out strong, later part of it's forced. So there you go.
Very good.
That would be my final pick. All right. You are a bit late, but we're still here for the moment. The Cure were around in the 70s. I thought that they were a 90s band. Well, they
First album was
started-
79, I think.
Yeah. I've never checked out The Cure. Well, we're checking them out right now. All right. Almost every 80s band struggled going into the 90s. It's true. I have to agree with Grant on this one, but I don't know any Cure. Well,
I only know like 3 songs by The Cure, and that's it. So
I've not heard the new Cure song, so I
I've
can't
not.
comment on it. No, I mean, he's way too hot in the mix.
What the?
I don't like the mix on Wild Mood Swings at all. I think it needs a remix. After Kiss on Tom Snyder 1980, how much wilder was that crack over Ace's Wisecracks?
I still say Destroyer.
Yeah. George says, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me is my favorite Cure album. See, that was great. That was David M. Allen. And I don't think Robert Smith gets enough credit for his guitar playing. It's a fantastic album. A lot of it, you'd be surprised, but what makes the guitar so great on Cure records is that everybody's playing a 6-string bass. If you ever watch them, like Pictures of You, the whole thing's like 6-string bass.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives them a lot different sound.
Mm-hmm.
The cracks form of Robert Smith's, well, it got out of control when he was in Susie and the Banshees. On their, let's see. Yeah, Ken agrees it wasn't Wish. BM Bolt, for the record, everyone, not a Cure fan. Thank you, BM
I
Bolt.
know nothing about him, other than Robert Smith being a unusual looking character.
Sydney said Poison, the cracks from when I realized those chicks were dudes. Well,
Byron, if you were able to get the Cure's vinyl records for $1, would you buy them?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I bought some records for $1 one day.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. I didn't even know what any
Are
of
you
these
going to
records
share?
were.
Oh my
think I might
God.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Me and Bolt's always
ready?
got something new to show us.
All right, show. That is, yes. Is that the original Geffen DCC
These are
press?
all new pressings, and they're mint. Mere mints. Sweet.
Swans, yeah.
Didn't know what it was. The rest of these, nobody probably knows what these other ones are either. It's called Hessian. It's like death
I don't know
metal.
that.
These album covers are going to fuel some nightmares tonight for me.
I don't know what even this is.
D
Golly
Lab?
Love.
D Lab?
The Feeling of Love.
Never heard of it.
Nope.
Next one and done.
Sharp ends.
Well, that's an interesting
My
cover.
God. These are
And then a
nightmare
Feeling of Love.
inducing.
But these are all still in the shrink wrap and never played hardly, it looked like. And they were $1 each, so I grabbed them.
Wow. Very nice.
Cool.
The first two are worth quite a bit, I think. You know, right, reasonably.
Yeah.
The rest of them are just kind of unknown, but
So, okay. Well, I guess we've done it. Anybody have anything else to mention? Or Byron, you have anything else?
Does anybody have anything to
I got
promote?
one more, but we're not
he's
going to
got-
go there. So
You don't want to talk about it?
I don't. If we're not doing any more episodes, we could all kind of hash it out if you want. I was going to suggest Iron Maiden. Oh, what the hell
No
album was
Prayer
it?
for the Dying,
No Prayer for the Dying. Yes,
1990.
I thought that everything was great up until the seventh. Was it Seventh Son of a Seventh Son? That was a really good album, but this album, I thought they just kind of started losing it. And,
Anybody else have any opinions?
Bring
on
Your
this?
Daughter to the Slaughter is not that great of a track. It was on Bruce's solo album, and didn't Adrian quit after this? So I just think it was.
Adrian quit after seventh son.
Right.
Was it? I thought he was on this. Maybe not. Okay, so
No, he
yeah,
was
I think
on No
things-
Prayer for the Dying.
Things are just falling apart. And then Bruce left after Fear of the Dark, and yeah, so yeah.
Oh yeah, there you did put it back up. Adrian's already gone.
Right.
I couldn't remember if he was on that one or not.
I like the album cover for No Prayer.
That's about the
Seventh-
only slightly good thing about it.
Seventh Son was great. Agreed. No Prayers was weak. I don't even like the album cover for this record.
Oh boy, we got a comment right after that I vehemently disagree with. Dan Gotcher with Creedence Clearwater Revival's Pendulum. I love that album.
I love that one too.
Very different.
Oh, my.
Not your swampy CCR, but some
Brian,
really
where have you
great
been?
They're
tunes.
very ragged and loose.
Yeah, I love that album.
Pagan baby. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Ours equated the popularity of the Cure to the bands like English Beat. Well, they are nothing like English Beat or Bow Wow Wow. I never saw people's attraction to the band. Yeah, I get it. I think Robert Smith was a phenomenal songwriter. Brian. Fun show. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up, everybody. Yeah. Bad cover. They seem to jump the shark with the album covers. I don't think any of them are all that hot after this, to be quite honest. I don't get it. It's weird.
Fear of the Dark, I think they got away. They used a different artist completely, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, Derek, they booted Derek Riggs because I don't know, just wasn't the right direction that they wanted to go in, and
The cracks were forming. That's why.
yeah.
Seventh Son is my favorite Maiden album. Almost proggy. Love it. Seven Sons is a perfect album, and Lost in Time, they started suing each other.
Never good when bands mates are suing each other. Not going to produce good stuff. Oh, Dan, I disagree. I think CCR had done the swamp rock thing, and they had to start going in some different directions. And if they would have continued on with what they did with Pendulum instead of the big pile of poo that was Mardi Gras, I think they'd have been okay. But I think John wanted to move on to greener pastures, so to speak.
Thanks for the kind words, Jason. Here we go. We're going to end this on this note. It all comes back to Jerry Riggs, lady buddy.
Jerry Riggs.
One and done. We covered that. Check that out if you haven't. That Riggs album fared very well amongst the panel. So,
Hey, Grant, are you going to plug our Grand Funk Railroad almost finale coming up?
why don't you do it?
Well, folks, this Wednesday, 8 o'clock
Is it Wednesday?
Eastern.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We'll be live. We'll be
We'll
live.
be live. So 8 o'clock Eastern, we're going to tackle those two Grand Funk Railroad albums from the 80s.
It's going to be fun.
And see what we think. It's going to be
Yeah.
lively and conversational. And we look
Yeah,
forward to people in the comment section giving us their 2 cents.
Yeah, we'll let... Brian says Grand Funk has a new album coming.
What?
Is that true?
Whoa.
That's news to me, but it's the Don Brewer-led Grand Funk. Mark Farner has a new album coming out in November, too. So
We played a little Mark Farner last night.
that's a good tune, man. You knocked me out of my chair with that one.
That's a good song.
Yeah.
Joy Division is awesome and Rush 2. All right, I want to thank the panel tonight. I want to thank Johnny Metal, John the Music Nut, BM Bolt, and DC Tune Time. We'll be back
What
in a
about
couple...
me, Grant?
And the Possum.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be back in a couple weeks because we're doing, what, 1984. So we'll be back live in a couple weeks, so we'll see you then. Until then, you'll see these gentlemen on here. God knows what we have coming up. But yeah, you can guarantee that we do have a Grand Funk show this week. So, all right, we'll see everybody. Yep, we talked about that. You missed that, Brian. All right, everybody, we'll see you. Have a good week.
See everybody. Have a good week. Hope to see you back Wednesday night.
See you.